Right, I will call the Finance and Personnel Committee to order. Today's date is Wednesday, February 8th, 2023. The time is 6:15 p.m. Notice of this meeting has been duly posted at City Hall. We'll proceed with roll call. Myself, Alder Dan Stevens, am present. Alder Tom Smith.
I'm here.
Alder Stephen Knott.
Present.
Also with us, we have today the Finance Director, Sabrina Steger. We have Amy Franston, HR Director, Jared Holter, Katie Aspenson, we have Mayor Smith, we have Alders Stokes and Wolf, and Fire Chief Goody. We have Park Director Dan Wick, Jared Holter, the Public Works guy, and Chief Ashbeck is on Zoom, and Bradley Weigott from Barrett is also with us. Is that correct? Anyone else?
That's it.
Right, moving on. Item 2, consideration and action on minutes from the previous meeting. Is there a motion?
Go ahead. I move to approve the minutes from last meeting. I'll second.
Motion from Alder Knott, seconded by Alder Smith to approve the minutes. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. The minutes are approved. Item 3, public input. Anybody wishing to provide public input to the Finance and Personnel Committee may do so now. Make yourself known or approach the dais. Second call for public input. Third and final call for public input. Nobody wants to speak online? Public input is now closed. Consideration and possible action on the following items under Finance, Section 4, the 2022 Omni Center financials. Sabrina.
All right, thank you, Chair. So in your packets tonight, starting on page 1 is the Omni Center balance sheet. And then behind that, you will see the Omni Center budget report for year end through 2022. If you take a look at page 6 in your packets, that will show you the surplus for the Omni Center for 2022 being $127,583.72. So all good news. They first went over in revenues. They did go over in expenses, but that's due to some of their revenues. So all in all, the Omni Center had a good year. I will be bringing forth in the March cycle meetings a memo to designate some funds within the Omni Center. We did receive a contribution from La Crosse County for the branding work. And the branding work, a lot of it is done, but they still have to finalize some of that. So we will be designating some funds for that purpose. So you will see that in the March cycle. But that's all I really have for them.
127, we are very happy with our people up at the Omni Center.
I'll make a motion. We approve the 2022 Omni Center financials and place them on file. I'll second.
We have a motion from Alder Smith, seconded by Alder Knott to approve and place on file the 2022 Omni Center financials. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Item 5 is the City of Onalaska General Fund financials. Sabrina, 5A.
All right, thank you. So in your packet, starting on page 7 is the balance sheet. And then behind that is the budget report for the general fund of the City of Onalaska. I will draw your attention to page 12. That will give us our revenue totals. As you can see, we did go over in revenues by $645,000 for the general fund revenues. And if you continue going in your packet onto page 24, this will show you our total expenditures. We did come under budget slightly by $60,000 or 0.58% of our budgeted expenditures for the year 2022. That does give us a surplus of $883.05. You'll see later on in the packet, I'll discuss what we're going to do with that surplus, but I will answer any questions that you have for that. All good news.
I'll move that we approve and place on file the 2022 City of Onalaska General Fund financials.
Second.
Motion by Alder Knott, seconded by Alder Smith to approve and place on file the 2022 general fund financials. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Keep up that good work going. Let's make that a trend. Item B, authorization to approve transfer of funds within each department to comply with the Government Accountability Standards Board, GSAB, Generally Accepted Accounting Principles, GAAP, for 2022. This is where $705,000 is going to go, or is that separate?
That is separate. So in your packet, starting on page 25, this is essentially our budget report. One of the things that's required through the Government Accounting Standards Board and Generally Accepted Accounting Principles is that you kind of reconcile your accounts at year end for items that go over a certain dollar value. So you'll see starting on page 25, there's a column that's called interdepartment transfers. So I'm asking you to approve those at this time. So that column, essentially what I'm doing is we'll just use the Common Council, for example. The Common Council did go under in their total budgeted expenditures by $4,153.95. But there are some line items that went over budget. So I'm just moving some budget dollars around. So then those accounts will show that we didn't go over budget. Pretty normal standard. We do it every year. We're approving again that interdepartment transfer at this time.
And you would prefer that the motion specifically state the interdepartment transfers? Is that stated in
Nope, I think you can just approve the transfer of funds within each department.
I move that we approve the transfer of funds within each department within the compliance of Government Accounting Standards Board for the fiscal year 2022.
Second.
motion by Alder Knott, seconded by Alder Smith to approve the interdepartment transfers to comply with the Government Accounting Standards Board and GAAP principles? I assume that last part was also part of the motion.
Yes.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, we'll go on to item 6, and I guess we have Brad Feigut joining us from the cloud. Hi, Brad.
You're unmuted. Oh, but we can't hear you yet. Maybe. Do you have your mic on? Still can't hear you.
We could knock off a few of the resolutions while we're, or we can take a moment too, that's
Yeah,
fine.
do you mind if we just take a moment? He said he's lost audio, so he can't hear us either. Chief Ashbeck, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you fine.
Okay.
Comms check beforehand.
Yeah, he was on earlier. That's if he was there and he said, yeah.
Could he try just calling in on his phone?
Yeah, he's gonna try to reconnect here. We could move ahead and take a look at resolution or item 10, 11 and 12, if you would like. Those don't really relate to the bonding.
All right. We're going to skip down on the agenda and then we'll go back later with the bonds. So we will talk about item 10, which is resolution number 11-2023. A resolution to transfer from the 2022 general fund budget to the special revenue fund equipment replacement fund. I'll make that as motion. Is
I'll second.
there any discussion? Motion by me, seconded by Not. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Item 11. Resolution 12-2023, a resolution to transfer to or from various departments in the 2022 general fund budget. I'll make a motion as stated per the agenda.
I'll second.
Motion by me, seconded by Alder Smith. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Item 12, resolution 13-2023. A resolution to transfer from the 2022 general fund budget to the special revenue fund under special projects. And I will make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Stevens, seconded by Not. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Those resolutions have passed.
Okay, Brad is back on. Brad, can you hear us? Brad, can you hear us?
You maybe just call in. Every time I've had issues and I call in, calling works because we've got the slides in front of us. He just has to talk through them.
While we're waiting, we should all congratulate Dan Wick on being the park dude of the year for the whole state of Wisconsin. We have the time, so you can come up and make a speech.
Or we can move on to item 13.
Item 13, got it.
I'm looking forward to the speech, but. All right, can we go 13 through 16 then?
Yeah, you sure can.
We again will jostle the agenda around. We'll go items 13 through 16 under finance. So item 13 is to designate funds in the equipment replacement fund. Did you want to talk about this a little bit?
Yeah, if I
Okay.
could. And then Jared's here too as well. So last year, and in the past, sometimes we have done some carry forwards in the equipment replacement fund. Last year, we kind of took a stance that not to move funds just because, like if they don't have a specific purpose, to designate to certain departments or areas. In this instance, these items were budgeted in 2022, and we definitely made progress in ordering, for example, the truck, but it just hasn't been delivered. And in the market that we're in right now, I think it's worthy of designating these funds for 2023 for when that truck does come in. We've already obligated to purchasing that truck. So I think it's a good move for the city's part to be able to designate these items that Jared is asking for 2020.
And we have the dollar amounts. We know the specific.
Yep, so
Okay.
I'll let Jared talk a little bit more about the IT equipment, but the truck was budgeted for 2023, and I think we should definitely designate funds for that. Sorry, it was budgeted for 2022. We should designate, so in 2023, they can purchase that truck.
Understood. Jared.
So in the memo tonight, I've outlined 3 actually projects, and all of those projects have been brought forward for a specific reason and purpose. As Sabrina stated, the 1-ton truck was budgeted through our street department and equipment replacement fund. Part of the truck As I came to the council, might have been April, when we actually ordered 2022 trucks and 2023 trucks. And I asked to move forward and do those, and we thought, well, we still don't have our 22 trucks, and we ordered the 23s at the same time, so maybe we'll get the 23s when we would normally get them with the 22s. So they were ordered, no anticipated delivery date for any of that equipment, so just requesting that we can carry those funds forward so we can continue the order. The IT equipment, as with the departure of some IT staff over the second half of 2022, we were not able to get the door fob and panic button project completed. We have located what locations, so I'm working with a vendor to try and get them scheduled to come in and schedule that work, get quotes so I can bring it in to get it approved. So we are still working on that. And then the council chambers AV upgrades, they were actually in yesterday going through the council chambers. That's been approved by the council, and they're getting equipment in and hopefully have it installed in the next 2 months. So other projects are just ongoing, just for a variety of reasons haven't gotten done. And they're all budgeted in 2022 as part of the equipment budget.
So really no surprises here. We're just taking care of just assigning things to this.
Allowing us extra time to complete the projects.
Stuff's already obligated. Well, I'll make a motion to approve the designated funds and the equipment make sure I get the right, yes, the equipment replacement fund for the door fob, the council chambers, and the 1-ton truck with a total of $51,000.
Second.
We have a motion did that encapsulate everything?
I think.
Yep.
Motion by Alder Knott, seconded by Alder Smith, to designate the funds in the equipment replacement fund. Is there any discussion? Sabrina?
I just wanted to add, the reason I do bring this forward is it is a requirement. I can't just restrict funds or designate funds on my own. That has to be brought to the council and has to be passed by council. So that is why I brought it forward, so you're aware.
Right. Works for me.
Clarification though, we made that decision now in the past not to do this except for when there's exceptions like this.
Correct.
Moving forward, we won't do that unless there's a.
Yeah, I think in the market that we're in right now, it's really tough. Likely there's going to be another one in March. I did have a department had already reached out to me saying there's no way the vehicle is going to be here by the end of March. So likely there will be another one in March that I have to designate funds
These are
for.
exceptional things, yeah.
Yeah. I think if there's a purpose, then I think it's worthy of being designated.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Now on item 14, the Gunderson Health Systems parking ramp in the fourth quarter and annual for 2022.
Yeah, so in your packets tonight on page 67 is the parking ramp operating costs through the fourth quarter. We do make a quarterly payment of $1,250. So you can see that on the revenue line. I did ask them why there are no numbers in for 2022 for the average number of cars. They did say that they weren't doing it for quite some time in 2022, but they did do it in December of 2022, and they are working on making sure that they keep track of vehicles in the ramp going forward. So if you're questioning why that wasn't done, I did as well, and that was their reasoning that they gave.
I'll make a motion that we approve the fourth quarter and annual Gunderson Health Systems parking ramp for 2022.
Second.
Motion from Alder Smith, seconded by Alder Knott, to approve the Gunderson Health Systems parking ramp, both fourth quarter and annual 2022. Place them on file. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. We are on to item 15, the results from the request for proposals for investment management services. This is exciting stuff. Sabrina.
This is exciting stuff. So I did have staff, myself, interim, city administrator and city attorney Amanda Jackson, one of my staff, Karen, our accounting and payroll supervisor, and then Jared, director of public works, all review the RFPs that came in. We did receive 5 firms that did respond. Dana Investments did score the highest, with Ellers coming in second. We, as a group, did discuss this, and I feel most comfortable moving forward with having a interview with Dana Investments as well as Ellers, just to kind of discuss their processes, things of that nature before we make a final decision. So that's kind of where we're at.
So for the top 2 choices, the fees that they would charge, what was the difference in the basis point between each one?
Yeah, Dana Investments quoted 15 basis points and Ellers is just under 12 basis points. But they did state that there was a discount in there. So that's why I would prefer to have further conversations to see if that discount goes away or how long that discount stays in place.
That makes sense.
Well, I'll make a motion that we continue to move forward with the selection process for investment management services, specifically to interview Dana Investments and Ellers to see who is the best fit.
Second.
Motion from Alder Knott, seconded by Alder Smith, to review and proceed with interviews for the investment management services. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Item 16, the mural permit fee. I think it was just like $50. So Katie.
Hello. If you have any questions related to this, I'm here to help. This fee was generated based off of our facade wall sign fee, where we have a base fee of $50. And then the wall sign actually increases based on the square footage of the sign. But as Amanda's memo states, the intention is not for commercial purposes. It's rather just to cover city staff inspection time. So if you have any other questions, I'm happy to answer.
I'll make a motion that we approve agenda item number 16, adding the rural permit application fee of $50 to the under section 7.07-OB-1 of the city's fee schedule.
Second.
Motion by Alder Smith, seconded by Alder Knott, to approve the $50 mural permit fee. Any discussion? Just for discussion, I'm not sure if I need to abstain or not, but I am actually in the process of reviewing and approving a mural from a different organization. So I'll just, on the safe side, I will abstain from this, but I don't know that it matters, but all those.
City, right?
Hmm?
It's not for the city what you're doing, right?
The organization is, it would be within the city and the mural fee would apply to it, but
All right.
Safe to do that.
it's not gonna hurt anything, so.
Yeah.
All right, all those in favor,
Aye.
Aye.
and then I will abstain. Well, we could go to, or we have Brad.
Brad,
Brad,
sorry, Brad, for all the technical difficulties.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened, but if I get dropped again, I am on the phone also, so I can present over the phone.
Good.
We're good. We can hear you.
Okay. Would you like me to go ahead then with the presentation, or was?
Yes.
floor is yours, Brad. Take it away.
All right, thank you. I'll walk through the presentation packet that begins on page 45 of your agenda packet. This is the city's annual financing to fund capital projects. And, you know, included in the packet are a few different scenarios. Typically, historically, what this committee and the council has seen is a recommendation for a 20-year financing to fund capital projects. This year, we're really showing 3 different scenarios. One is for a 20-year repayment for the levy supported debt. One shortens that repayment period to 18 years, and one shortens it further to 16 years. You know, the impact of reducing the term of the debt, of course, is lower total costs, or there's interest savings. The trade-off is over time, you're paying slightly higher annual payments. So I put together a comparison. I'll walk through that and really talk about the potential impact if you should decide to shorten the repayment period a little bit. So on page 46, I start with a summary of the obligation. And this summary is that it's a general obligation corporate purpose bonds. And it's funding capital projects. It also funds some enterprise projects for water and sewer. Issue size is $3,725,000. And there's annual principal payments beginning October 1st of next year, with the final payment either in 2042, 2040, or 2038, depending on the direction that we receive from the committee tonight. The interest rate, I've used estimates ranging from 374 to 397. That depends on the term that is selected. And I've also, as always, I've built in a little bit of a buffer there. Those rates are roughly 25 to 30 basis points above market rates today. I just did that for planning purposes, trying to be conservative. So if I were in front of you tonight to finalize the terms, we'd be somewhere in the 350 to 375 range. With the committee's authorization tonight and adoption of the initial borrowing resolutions, this would go in front of council on February 14th, where the council would be asked to take action on the initial resolutions. Baird, along with city staff, would continue the preparations for issuance. We'd complete the official statement. That's the offering document. We'd secure a bond rating from Moody's. I don't expect any change in the city's rating, very high credit quality at AA2. Baird would market this obligations to underwriters nationwide and then accept bids. One change to this timeline, in your packet, we're showing April 11th would be the night that the council considers award resolutions. We moved that up to March 14th, and that move was made subsequent to this presentation going out. So it'd be a month after the initial action that the council would take final action. And that's in an effort to get that closing date moved up about a month. So instead of receiving the funds on May 2nd, the city would receive the funds on or about April 4th. So then you have the funds deposited and available for the projects. I'll walk through the various scenarios and talk a little bit about each of them and then answer questions. On page 47 of your packet, I'm showing the repayment schedule for the water and sewer component of this financing. We've left that component amortized over a 20-year period because the debt payments are supported by revenues of both systems, as opposed to being supported by a tax levy. So this section of the financing plan is really identical whether you select the 20, 18, or 16-year amortization of the levy supported plan. And the detail of that begins on page 48. The left-hand side of the page shows existing debt service payments that are supported by tax levy. So these are payments already in place for bonds already issued. The boxed in area is the amortization of the $3,725,000 piece. And this first scenario amortizes the levy portion of the debt over a 20-year repayment. The offsetting revenues represents the water and sewer component of this year's financing. So we're backing that out of the levy payments, and that column is going to be the same for all three of these scenarios. In fact, this column equals the total column on the page that I just walked through. Moving to the right-hand side, we've got a placeholder in here for future financings. You're in no way committing to these financings, the future financings tonight, but we include these for planning purposes so that we never look at any one borrowing in isolation. We want to make sure that long-term we understand what kind of impact and budget impact we're creating for the city. So the future financings for all the scenarios assume a $3.1 million annual capital financing amortized over the same term as each of the scenarios. So in this case, those future borrowings are amortized over a 20-year period. The next page, they'll be amortized over 18, and the final scenario that we're presenting is over a 16-year period. The combined net debt service then near the right-hand side, that reflects existing payments plus this new set of payments moving forward. The first principal, so this year, let me back up, in the year 2023, you've budgeted $4,137,000 for levy supported debt payments. Next year, under this plan, there'd be a modest increase that would increase to $4,168,000, and then another step up from there. So you get an indication of, even with the future financings, what the overall impact would be to your debt service levy. When we flip to the next page, page 49, this is laid out identical to the prior page. So I'll just focus on that right-hand column. What you'll notice is that under this scenario, and this has 18-year repayment for the levy portion of the debt, the payments budgeted for 24 would be effectively identical to the payments you're budgeting this year. And that's because there's less total interest costs. So the interest that would be owed in 2024 is less in this scenario than it is in the first scenario. That brings down the combined debt service to be at the same level in 24 as it is in 23. You have modest increases from there, and you'll see that it peaks in 2027. And then on the final page of the final detailed scenario, 16-year amortization. Under this scenario, you'll see that the combined debt service would actually drop going into 2024 from where it is budgeted this year. And then you would see the years of increases in 25 and 26. So I pulled together a summary of these three scenarios, and that's in the final page of this portion of your packet. It's on page 51. This summary looks at the existing debt payments on the far left, and then I've got the net debt service, the levy supported debt service of just the 2023 issue next to that. So scenario 1 has the red header, that's 20 years, scenario 2 at 18, and scenario 3 was 16. And you can see the totals for each of those. So what I'd point out is the total debt service on scenario 1 is about $195,000 greater than the debt service on scenario 2. The trade-off, if you look at the scenario 2 annual payments, they're slightly higher. So you're paying less interest over time, but more higher payments during that time period. Compared to scenario 3, it's about a $387,000 difference. And then comparing scenario 2 to scenario 3, so that's a 18-year compared to a 16, roughly $192,000 less cost on the 16-year scenario. Towards the center of the page, under the heading that says combined net debt service, this is just taking those columns I was focusing on the individual analysis and putting them next to each other for summary comparison. I think what's interesting here, if you look at 23, 24, 25, there's really very little difference between the annual payments in total over the next 2 budget cycles. And then the distinction becomes a little more noticeable in 26 through 29. I've highlighted in yellow the maximum payment under each of these scenarios. Now this is looking out several years in the future. We're looking out to 2037 and 2038. But with this information and assumptions we have, you can see that the 20-year debt service peaks at a lower level. It peaks at about $4.5 million. The 18-year would peak at about $4.8 million, and the 16-year amortization peaks 1 year later at $5.2 million. All of those then begin to decline thereafter, and I've boxed in the areas where you see where we would level off. Now, this again assumes equal annual financings at that $3.1 million. But what I'm trying to point out here is that under the shorter amortization period, you would ultimately equal off at lower annual payments. All of this is represented graphically on the right-hand side of the page. You see these lines are roughly on top of each other through 2029 and then start to diverge from there, with the longer amortization period having lower payments. So we wanted, this is something we talked about with the committee last year when we were in front of you, that we were going to at least lay out these options. I think the recommendation is really to consider going with the 18-year scenario, and we'd reevaluate this annually. Each year we'd reevaluate that decision, but especially given that over the next 2 years, going with the 18-year scenario does not set up the city for significant budget changes from where you are today. So you're starting down the path of getting to a shorter repayment without taking a significant impact over the next couple of years. With that, I'll take a pause to answer any questions. And then I did want to just make a comment about your next agenda item, just to help clarify some changes to the resolutions.
Thank you, Brad. Do we want to kind of weigh in?
I thought that was very clear. I have no questions.
So oh, we're getting some feedback.
Brad, can you hear Dan talk?
No, I'm sorry, I can't.
Do you mind muting for a second while I
Okay.
think there's some feedback?
Just based on this, I mean, I think it's a pretty good case to exclude scenario one. My preference is to get the lowest interest rate you can, take a disciplined approach, and years later, the city would really reap the benefit. I'm not sure how feasible that is. So while I might favor scenario three, I got a feeling scenario two might be more practical. So Sabrina, I'm sure you have an idea or two to share.
Yeah, I definitely would recommend scenario two, and that we continue to look at, getting closer to that 15 to 16-year amortization as we move forward. I think starting with 18 and slowly getting there is the best way to go.
Yeah, that's my thought too, looking at all three. And I think he did a real nice job of laying it out, but I think scenario two, to me, sounds like the best option in my thoughts.
100% agree. I move that we approve scenario two and move to an 18-year debt payment service.
I'll second.
Where we're making a motion on this here, how is this?
That would be ideal for Brad's
that.
purposes. Yep.
I'll second that.
So we have a motion by Alder Knott, seconded by Alder Smith to approve scenario two, which would be the 18-year amortization table. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, Brad, you can unmute.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to comment on the next set of resolutions you'll be considering to again, remind the committee a couple of things. There's a state statute that requires for this type of financing that there's separate resolutions for each sort of category that's identified under state statute. So that's why you're seeing multiple resolutions. And then there's the resolution that would require directing publication for notice to electors. And that final resolution is to pull all of these individual initial resolutions into one bonding that's called a corporate purpose bond. So that combines all the individual components of the borrowing to one financing. One edit to resolution that is letter A on your agenda, that has changed from 1,780,000 to 1,795,000. And resolution that's identified as E for library projects has been removed. That was a clerical error. At bond council, bond council had inadvertently labeled a library project that is not a library project. So you'll see that resolution A is now going to be 1,795,000, and what's resolution E is eliminated.
Eliminated?
Yes.
15.
So just for housekeeping purposes, we can either take item E and vote to turn it down, or we can pretend it doesn't exist, or we can make item F now item E, and then item G, item F. Is there a preference on how we want this handled?
I believe we would decide to,
Item E is eliminated and move on to F.
I think we should just vote it down
Vote it
and then
down.
keep them in the same order. That makes
I recommend
sense.
that.
Simple, yeah.
All right, so we have a plan. Item 7, the City of Onalaska 2023 Capital Projects General Obligation Corporate Purpose Bonds. So item A or 7A is Resolution 2-2023, an initial resolution authorizing $1,795,000 in general obligation bonds for street improvement projects.
I move to approve resolution 2-23,
A second,
2023, sorry.
second that.
Motion by Knott, seconded by Smith to approve resolution 2-2023. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Item B, resolution 3-2023, initial resolution authorizing $1,155,000 general obligation bonds for parks and public grounds projects.
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution 3-2023.
Second.
Motion by Alder Smith, seconded by Alder Knott to approve resolution 3-2023. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Item C, resolution 4-2023, initial resolution authorizing $350,000 in general obligation bonds for sewerage projects.
I move that we approve resolution 4-2023.
Second.
Motion by Alder Knott, seconded by Alder Smith to approve resolution 4-2023. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Item D is resolution 5-2023, an initial resolution authorizing $145,000 general obligation bonds for equipment of the fire department.
Motion to approve resolution 5-2023.
Second.
We have a motion from Alder Smith, seconded from Alder Knott to approve resolution 5-2023. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Item E is resolution 6-2023, initial resolution authorizing $15,000 in general obligation bonds for library projects.
I
I will
move,
make a motion that we decline this.
I'll second.
Motion by me, seconded by Alder Knott. Remember, a yes vote is to not have this on the agenda. So all those in favor of removing resolution 6-2023, please say aye.
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 Aye. On to item F, resolution 7-2023, initial resolutions authorizing $75,000 general obligation bonds for fire station projects.
I move that we approve resolution 7-2023.
Second.
Motion by Alder Knott, seconded by Alder Smith to approve resolution 7-2023. All those, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item G, resolution 8-2023, initial resolution authorizing $250,000 general obligation bonds for water system projects.
Motion to approve resolution 8-2023.
Second.
Motion by Alder Smith, seconded by Alder Knott to approve resolution 8-2023. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
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 We're on to item 8, which is resolution 9-2023, a resolution directing publication of notice to electors relating to bond issues.
I move that we approve resolution 9-2023.
Second.
Motion by Alder Knott, seconded by Alder Smith to approve resolution 9-2023. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Resolution 9, resolution 10-2023. A resolution providing for the sale of $3,725,000 general obligation corporate purpose bonds. This has to do with our presentation we just had.
A motion that we approve resolution 10-2023.
Second.
A motion from Alder Smith, seconded by Alder Knott to approve resolution 10-2023. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And that will actually
Seven.
conclude because items 10 through 16 are already done. We are done with the finance portion and can now move on to the personnel, which will bring us to item 17, a recruitment update from Human Resource Manager Amy Franston. Hi, Amy.
Hi, good evening. So as you can see, we've got a lot of activity already from the first of the year. Our regular positions, we filled 3 positions in January, our GIS specialist, and 2 of our firefighter EMT positions. We've got a number of positions underway as well. Our firefighter EMT actually has since started in February, so you'll see that on your next report. We are in interviews right now for our assistant municipal court and our 3 public work maintenance positions as well. And a number of positions that we are currently accepting applications for, to include our firefighter EMT part-time and full-time eligibility list, our city administrator, police officer eligibility list, our part-time event specialist at the Omni Center, and part-time law enforcement records specialist. And in the process is our IT manager, which is also an agenda item this evening.
You, Amy. It's a longer list than we're accustomed to.
Oh, wow, yeah.
I could just note one thing. I know last month on the previous, we did have GIS technician part-time on there. That was a seasonal position that was added in here, so I did take that off.
Noted. Item 18, approval of information technology director position, description and pay grade. Jared, was this a Amy or a Jared thing?
Well, this was in collaboration with our interim city administrator as well. With the vacancy of our IT manager position, it took an opportunity for us to look at that position and elevating that to an IT director and moving the IT into their own department. I know our interim administrator had provided a memo to you illustrating all of the points for that due to the number of devices, our number of ticketing, and just the liability reasons, duties of the position, and just the amount that goes into that. I'm sure Jared can take it away and get into more specifics.
So over the last 20 years, for those of us that have been around, the IT department has Amanda Jackson outlined in her memo, has moved around from various departments over the years. Various places, got a lot of history where it's been. Going forward today, you know, we've had it in Public Works for about 4 years now. It started under a Public Works manager. Then it went to City Hall, and our information systems person that also did our GIS work kind of oversaw the IT department a little bit. And then with her departure this summer, then it directly fell upon me. And then our IT manager left his position in December of this year. So with that, we've seen a lot of change. We've seen a lot of growth. I think when Public Works took it over 4 years ago, we really took a concerted effort to look at our systems and our methods, really have updated a lot of things. And we have in that process requested budget impacts that have been brought forward and sustained due to the fact of the services that we need to run the IT system. The IT information technology department, you know, affects everybody, every staff member, every employee. And there's one of the things I'd point out is in your packet tonight, I kind of prepared a little bit of a org chart. And one of the things that I think gets lost sometimes is the fact that we see an IT person in our midst, and the IT person and things like that cover a lot more than just one person. We've got, you know, contracted police support. We've got network support. We've got help desk support. We've got overall management of our IT services. You know, those are 4 distinct categories that are all very important and not just something that a part-time pieces of an individual can maintain. So with that going forward, you know, I've been in the thick of it. You know, we don't right now, you're looking at your IT person for the city in coordination with MCS, and it's been a grueling effort trying to keep up with, hundreds of tickets a month and trying to keep things moving. So really looking to get some help. I think I've been having this within the Public Works Department for a while now. I think we really need someone that's dedicated to giving us a vision in our information technology services. I don't see it getting any slower. I don't see it waning. The threats that we see, the items that we have to accomplish within the IT system and the expected service levels to keep everyone functioning within the city are only expanding. So I guess with that, if you got specific questions or an overview of what you'd like to see, I could more than happy to answer.
I have a few questions. So first, what was the current job grade and what's the job grade that it's going to? And the follow-up question would be what's the budgetary impact of that?
So the current position that was budgeted was a 10. We are proposing a 14 within this salary structure. That is about a $18,000 pay difference depending on what step we would hire that person at within that grade. With that position is paid for with our enterprise funds. Probably half that position is paid for with the enterprise funds. So it's probably
Water, sewer? you mean?
water, sewer, storm sewer, things like that. So it's about approximately 50-50 split. It might be 55-45 or something, but just for the sake of argument, we'll say it's 50-50.
And then, so what are we, I mean, 18,000 is a pretty big increase. Were we not having something done before that we're going to meet that need, or like, what are we getting for $18,000?
You're hopefully getting a qualified individual that can lead you into the future. Or you're going to have a department head such as myself or one of the other department heads that have tried to run the IT system for years, whether it's finance, HR, city administrator to give that lead. I feel with the amount of work that is associated in that department, it's even like the memo that was distributed. We're fortunate the IT budget has been supported, but you look at that budget, it's bigger than some other departments. And I think with the impact of it, with the, I look at this position like the city engineer, director of public works, the planning manager. These are positions that are giving us something that we're looking into the future. We're not just trying to fix today's problems. We're trying to get us so we're impactful come the next budget cycle, come 5 years from now, we're in a good position. So that's what I think we have various positions anywhere from a help desk person to an IT director, something in between. We were somewhere in between before, but with that position, unless I give a lot of leadership as a department head, I can't expect that person to be leading us into the future, in my opinion.
But we're looking at moving the position to, as a department head, it would report to the city administrator,
That
right?
is correct.
Stephen?
Stephen, go first.
Yeah, no, first off, I applaud where we're going. Technology change, and the threats that go along with it that only increase over time. And I think we definitely should have a seasoned subject matter expert who has a demonstrated ability to stay abreast of the new challenges and threats and changes as they occur. Only question I have on here, so I'm looking at the job description. Maybe I'm missing it. The only thing I see is where it's got the third bullet down on job functions, where it says systems are supported and resilient. And that's about the only, my concern is where do we get with making sure that we are up to date on threats and security of our systems? Is that in here and I'm just missing it? Because I'd like to see that in there.
And we can add that as a specific bullet, some sort of security type. Bullet
That would
point.
definitely support the higher pay grade then too, when you're adding the security aspects into it as well.
Yeah, that was my question too, is where's the security part of it? The system
Yeah.
security is very key today.
A lot of that would be MCS though, wouldn't it?
Potentially, we don't know where we're going in the future. We've had discussions in the past, we probably will in the future about do we continue to contract, do we hire somebody else, what's the best cost for us to benefit? So cost changes, benefits change over time. Right now, I think, you know, we're happy with what we're getting unless somebody else has a different opinion. But that could change, or it could just be that in the future, you know, maybe we need to have a part-time staff with under this person and we don't go with a contractor. This gives us that flexibility, but that security expertise still would allow them to have the conversation with MCS and what their concerns are. It wouldn't just be totally reliant on the contractor.
I do agree with the security aspect, and that is a good point to put into this job description, and the fact that they're overseeing the contracted services. So we look at contracted services once in a while. It's kind of like garbage collection. We don't actually have city staff that go out and pick up refuse and recycling. But we get a lot of calls on refuse and recycling, and we have to administer the contract and pay the bills and make sure that the contractor is performing their work accordingly. So those things are very great. They happen, but there's work that goes on behind the scenes to ensure they happen. And this person should be, as Alder Knott stated, be, you know, ensuring that we're working with security. We've been working with things like two-factor authentication. That was a project that we wanted to do in 2023, but it's gotten delayed now. Just things like that we want to move forward with, and always be, since we haven't had any on-site IT staff, we haven't been sending out the fake emails to everyone to see if they click on a link. Things like that, you know, our education's lacking, but those are things I would definitely support that being in there. One of the other things I would add also is, just because we're going from a grade 10 to a 14 doesn't mean we're going to eliminate our contracted assistance. You know, we still got networking, we've still got the CGIS requirements, we got a lot of the police squad work that is a specialized area. You know, so there's still, you know, there's things that we're paying MCS extra right now to do phone management and mobile device management that hopefully this person can do. So I just want to make sure we understand that just because we're going from a 10 to a 14, we're not going to all of a sudden, this person's going to.
Yeah, my comments were along those lines. It just gives us future flexibility if needed to where we can move quickly because we'll already have somebody in place. If I could also, Chair. Yeah, so as an example of how this would work with having the security background, they'd be looking at, you know, future threats, new technologies as they come out, and as new contract timelines come due, this individual would have the expertise of, we need to adjust this and add this because this is something that's new that we need to include in this contract that currently isn't in the current one. Whereas, you know, we probably don't have that expertise on staff right now. Agree?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to say the same thing. My thought was the strategy of being in IT for 35 years, the strategic part of it, having someone seeing the big picture, working with your other party vendors. I wouldn't see those, you know, MCS wouldn't go away, but they'd be a partner to making sure that everybody's going the same direction and having that bigger picture and finding the holes and making sure that everybody's going the right way. So I think it would require a highly skilled person that could strategically look at where the holes are and do the assessments, the technology assessments, and see where the vulnerabilities are. Security, but bigger than security, where all those pieces are. So as long as we have security addressed, I think that's a good thing. And you know, and also see what's missing. And I think those are some of the things that I think is definitely needed. I think we've seen it over the years come and go different ways. And you know, Diane and I were way back at the very beginning of the technology committee. How many years ago that was? And yeah, that's where we first worked together. So we've seen a lot of pieces of that come and go. So I think it's, you know, we always wonder how that would be. My challenge to Amy is finding the right person that we can afford. I mean, it's tough today. I mean, I was in this business for 35 years, and even in the private sector, it was hard to hire people. So finding someone that, you know, would be a really good candidate that you can challenge and keep them and contribute and also keep them. That's the key thing. But hopefully that'll be the other thing, is finding someone that we can get that would be a good asset. Because once you get somebody good, you want to keep them. And that's the other challenge, but that's a challenge for everybody. So
Oh, I guess I have a couple thoughts on this. So really it's in two components. The first is structurally, where do you put IT? And I mean, I understand with the enterprise funds, public works that, like, I understand why it's under Jared at this point, but I'm not sure that was ever really the appropriate place to put that. So moving that to where the IT person would report to the city administrator, that to me makes sense. And we just have to make sure we have a city administrator that can speak enough of the language to, understand what they're saying. So that part I'm okay with. And I guess what I'm struggling with is in the last year, we upped our contract with MCS and we believe that we have increased our prowessness on security issues. I'm sure there's always room for improvement, but I'm not entirely convinced that our needs were not met at the level with the grade that it was at. So knowing that we have that going into that next budget cycle we talked about with the police department and trying to find some extra dollars to make that happen. The extra $18,000 is not unsubstantial. So like did we have a deficit in terms of our ability with the job function at the current level 10 grade? Or are we going to get something that really improves that process? So is this more of we want to make it a department head where it's its own thing and not out under public works? And we're going to pay $18,000 to do that. That might be better spent elsewhere. Or is this something that we need to do? Because I mean, IT is pretty critical and it's only going to become more important. So eventually we may have to get there. Whether it's the right time or not, I'm not sure. So I'm not like drawing a line in the sand. I'm just kind of questioning, we really need to spend this money to do what we need to do. I think we can make a structural change. And are we going to get that $18,000 worth of value if we make this a department head position?
Again,
Oh, please.
I would say that we are structurally woefully behind at grade 10. I have questions like Alder Smith pointed out, when we recruit for this position, if we truly want to get somebody that's going to give us a forward-looking vision, I have problems. I don't know if we're going to get them in a grade 14. Hopefully we do. But I have a feeling it's going to be a recruitment of 6 weeks or 2 months of advertising, and we're going to still be sitting here wondering how we're going to advertise again. And I think if you have someone at a grade 10, you've got a glorified help desk person. In my opinion, I've been doing this now enough as a department head, trying to keep track of everything. And actually for the last 6 weeks now, I've been the IT guy. So I've been seeing everything come through. And in order for you to have a vision for the future and not just be reacting, at a grade 10, that is not a position that is going to give you an expertise level that is going to give you future looking and try and get you to what you want.
Stephen.
Yeah, so this is probably personally for me, one of the easier sells for increased staffing cost. Normally I have a lot of questions on that and have been a tougher sell for those in the past. But as per what Jared just said, if you really want a seasoned professional who truly understands the intricacies of this IT environment, they come with a cost. This is a very expensive field to get a really good person. That's true across the entire public and private sector. If you're in competition with every large organization in the United States for a quality person, and there aren't enough of them to go around. So we're going to have to pay if we decide we're going to go this way. And I think 14 is certainly at the entry level of reasonable that maybe we'll get somebody of that caliber. I know that Dan, you'd said that you do understand that IT is going to become more important in the future. I just want to add on to that. Absolutely true. But because it becomes more important and essential to our function as a city in the future, it's also going to become more of a vulnerability. Whether it be vulnerability because we just don't have the right systems, or vulnerability because of an outright attack, or outside actor, collecting information or what have you. And the more dependent we become on tech, which we will, the more vulnerable it becomes to us as a threat. And we have to be ready to address that. And that's where I think this person will help us. So.
And I'll just add, also, it's just the distribution of work. I mean, Jared's got a full plate.
Mhm.
And to expect him to also wear the IT hat, even way back when they put it back on the Department of Public Works, I go, boy, that's a lot to ask. And you've done a great job. I mean, you really have, and especially in the short term, with Nils leaving and stuff like that. But it's a tough job. I mean, believe me, it's a tough thing to do because there's so many people pulling you so many different ways. So to try to do that with another job, if you really want a good person that can stay focused and keep them there, you really have to have a focus and a vision. And you have to have someone who's dedicated to do that. And if you find the right person, even if they're not fully trained, they can learn a lot of it, and learn from MCS and some of the other ones and grow into the position. So I think 14 might, at least the starting point, be a good place to go. You might just eventually have to reevaluate it in time, but you might be able to find someone. But I think definitely a 10 would not, you wouldn't bring very many people in at that level for sure. But I think it definitely is needed here because there is a demand of technology that I think there's an opportunity. And I think we need to let the other department heads do their jobs and not having to just burden them with the IT folks' jobs that really isn't their job. It's my thoughts.
All right, we've had discussion on this. Like I said, I'm not dead set against it, but let's approve this, kick it up to council. I would ask that we put it on consent so other people can speak, or they can speak now. Alder Wolf.
Thank you, Chair. I just have a couple quick questions, and if Jared, I had maybe 3 or 4, if I could ask directly. So Jared, when you talked about the $18,000 pay difference, when you said 50-50, you're talking about the enterprise funds and the general fund, correct?
Correct. The general fund pays about approximately 50% of the wage for the IT director, and 50% of it's from the enterprise funds.
Okay, thank you. And secondly, so we get this person in this new position, grade 14. I'm assuming then your position would no longer be involved with IT for the most part.
For the most part, I mean, obviously, I'm going to have institutional memory that is going to be passed along. It's going to take a while to get that up to speed, but I would hopefully, if you look at the Public Works org chart with IT in it, I had it here somewhere. It's over at my desk, but there's a lot of things happening in Public Works.
Yes.
I mean, so.
Let's see. So this person would also be doing the AV here in the chambers and such.
They would ultimately be in charge of that.
Okay,
Yes,
great.
correct.
Thank you. Let me see. I know I have a couple other things. For me personally, if we had like lots of money, I mean, I realize why we're looking at the proposal number 1, that's the short range goal. The long range, which I think we really need to be looking at is, for the IT technician general operations, because I think because we're really looking at eventually having like our own in-house help desk, correct?
Correct. If the long range that's in your packet tonight would have, obviously, in my opinion, you want to hire the person to give you the vision, the leader, and then let them guide us on how they want to handle help desk. MCS has been doing a wonderful job in the last 6 weeks since we lost all of our IT staff. Maybe that is, maybe that isn't. Maybe we dial back our contracted services and we get, as that chart shows, our own help desk person. And that way we got somebody, a staff member in-house that could be directing and assisting people right on site.
So I think it would just be a matter of long range goal if we're looking to do that in the future, whenever that may be, then I'm assuming then we would just have to look at coordinating that contract with MCS and when that start date would be for that person and such.
Correct. We would look at the services that are being offered currently by our information technology provider and then align those services with what we would have in-house and see how that would all correlate.
And lastly, I guess I've been here long enough. I remember starting, I think the technology advisory committee started initially in 2002. I came on in 2003, served on it continuously, except for maybe 1 year until it was dissolved in 2019, I think.
19 is right.
Yeah, and my personal opinion is I feel that IT was starved in the city of Onalaska for many, many, many years. And it was never a priority. And it's just been the last handful of years that we've really started pulling our full weight behind it and making it more of a priority. It's not that there wasn't a need, but there wasn't the money, and there was different people had different priorities. And I'm not certainly pointing the finger at any one person or any department or whatever, but I think there was a lot of disagreement through the years about IT. And my vision 20 years ago was that we should have had an IT person. It took us many years to get an IT person. So, then we also ended up experiencing a lot of turnover in that position. So I personally am supporting this evening and will next Tuesday. And I just wish that we could go with the long-term goal, but I hope I'm here when maybe we'll get to that. So thank you, Chair, for letting me speak.
Stephen,
Two quick ones. So first off, just to clarify, and I know that what Jared said isn't probably what he meant, but that's when you said that, yeah, you probably won't have to deal with IT much anymore. Obviously, all the department heads would still have to, through their own professional journals, whether it be in the engineering plans, Parks and Rec, looking at all the new things that are out there. But the difference would be then they'd be, hey, IT director, I really would like you to consider this type of a thing within my function. So yeah, I mean, they're not off the hook for new IT technologies within their functional area, but they wouldn't have to worry about the systems and security and all that process on the bigger strategic level anymore. It would just be their functional area.
This person's going to collaborate with every department.
Yeah. Yeah.
This person touches every department, so.
I knew that's what you meant.
You're not in the department, each department is not gonna be able to get out of what they need to for their departments, but hopefully we'd have an IT director that could collaborate with other department heads and then make judicious decisions on what are priorities, what aren't, which direction do we go?
Right. And then
I
this,
I understood it to be organization.
okay, yeah.
Hopefully you could get out of the day-to-day firefighting. At least some of it.
The second comment is reference the proposed organization chart. I'd have to have more discussion on it, but my initial view is that I'm not so sure the GIS aspect of this should move under the IT, because the GIS has a functionality, and the functionality isn't IT systems, it's plans and engineering, if that makes sense. So I honestly, in my view, GIS should be functionally aligned and not just because they have the same skill set, therefore that, they're going to be underneath the IT director. I would still think GIS should be underneath the engineer. Now, obviously there'll be some collaboration, but who's going to be that day-to-day supervisor? Well, it's going to be the one in my mind who the purpose they're there, their functionality does not align with the IT. It aligns with plans and with engineering.
And we have seen that in researching this and looking at this, we've seen it in multiple areas. It very well could stay in Public Works, and I wouldn't have a problem with that. I'd probably actually like that, because then it would allow our Public Works department, we use a lot of the GIS capabilities, as you state, Alderman. But then too, it's a global thing. It affects every department. Once again, GIS is used by the fire department, police department, it's used by a lot of public works, planning, Park and Rec. So every department uses it. So we've found that it's been shifting kind of that information systems, information technology. Where do you put it? It's not as cut and dried, but we did in this scenario, we did shift it over.
What's proposed, and we'll have to have discussions on it.
I would almost think plan would be the appropriate place to put that.
Either one. Yeah, I could live with either. Yeah.
Katie, do you have thoughts on?
We've had it in
GIS?
The poor GIS person too over the years has been shuffled between every department too, other than probably finance. So it was in planning for a couple of
was in
years. It was in, we actually pushed it back to Public Works.
The danger of taking it out of the functional space is the nature of us as human beings is when we work for a boss, we're going to focus on what's most important to that boss. And if in this case, if their immediate supervisor is the IT director, their number one concern is going to be what makes the IT director happy and not necessarily the functional area that they exist for. That's the danger of taking them out of there. I have no problem with the IT director looking over all the contracted support. That makes total sense.
I think GIS is kind of its own world and I think you could probably put it in any different department and like they're very specialized in what they do, but let's vote on this and then we can bring it up next week at council and maybe have some more discussion on where to put GIS.
I'll make a motion then that we approve the information technology director position description and pay grade with the amendment that, it's not an amendment, with the understanding that by the time it comes to common council, the security aspects will be addressed within it as well.
I'll second.
Motion by Alder Knott, seconded by Alder Smith. We've had lots of discussion. I can't imagine there'd be more, but anybody else have anything you want to say? Speak now or forever hold your peace. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And then I would ask that just be put on the non-consent, please. We'll go on to item 19, the policy update. Policy 5.01, work week, working hours. Amy.
So this is an update for the previous resolution that changed the city hall hours from 8 to 5 to 8 to 4. So this is just catching up and updating this policy a bit to include the flexibility that employees have the ability to take either a 30-minute unpaid lunch or up to an hour unpaid lunch, where previously it was only an hour. And it gives, again, those employees that flexibility between the hours of 7 a.m. and 5 p.m. to include their lunch breaks. Also incorporated the current practice for our public works and parks field employees with their schedule from a straight 8 from 7 to 3.
I'll move that we approve the policy update for policy 5.01, work week, working hours.
Second.
Motion by Alder Knott, second by Alder Smith to approve policy 5.01, working hours. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That brings us to the item 20, the human resource annual report.
So I'm happy to go through this, or if you have any questions, you just let me know how you'd like me to proceed.
You want to take a minute for this or?
I've already seen it.
Looks good. Girl. Questions myself.
Nope.
Yeah, I
Well done.
agree.
So I'll move that we file the human resources annual report.
I will second that.
Motion by Alder Knott, seconded by Alder Smith to file the human resources annual report, which was very well done. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, item 21 is adjournment.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Alder Smith, seconded by Alder Knott to adjourn at 7:35 PM. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, we stand adjourned. Have a good evening.